Ethan and Sarah walked past me, laughing and giggling to themselves. I could feel my blood boiling inside. What was he doing with her? He should be with me. Sarah had never liked me, and the feeling was mutual. I guess you could say we were arch enemies. That's why I hated the fact that she was dating Ethan. Everyone knew that I had always liked Ethan. We had known each other since we were 5 years old, but we had never dated. When Ethan started going out with Sarah, she couldn't wait to let me know. "Did you hear, Belinda? Me and Ethan are official," she said. I knew she was gloating. I didn't care what it was going to take. I had to find a way to steal him from her. But before I go on, make sure you like and subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on any more crazy stories. I spent all the next weekend trying to come up with a plan to get Ethan for myself. I knew that he wouldn't just dump Sarah. It was obvious they were madly in love. It did cross my mind that I could kidnap Sarah, but then I realized that that would be a pretty crazy thing to do. Then it came to me. I had always been a bit of a computer whiz kid. Maybe I could use my computer skills to hack into the school computer system and change Ethan's grades. I knew that Ethan hadn't done very well in his end-of-year exams. I felt sure that if I changed all his grades to A's, then he would want to date me. After school the next day, I saw Ethan walking home alone. I ran to catch up with him. "Hi, Ethan," I said. "Oh, hi, Belinda," replied Ethan. "Hey, do you want to know a way to get straight A's this year?" I asked him. "I wish. My parents are going to be so mad when they see my end-of-year report. The highest grade I got was a D. What if I told you I can find a way to change all your grades to an A? Really? You'd do that for me?" "Of course I will. But there is one condition." "What's that?" "You start dating me." "But I already have a girlfriend." I told him that he would have to dump Sarah if he didn't want to get into trouble with his parents. At first, Ethan was hesitant. I could tell at that moment that he really liked Sarah. But then I could see his mind working when he realized how his parents might react when they found out he got D's in his exams. And then he nodded at me, even if it was reluctantly. So that's what he did. Ethan told Sarah they were over, and he started dating me. The first time Sarah saw us together wasn't very pleasant. "Ethan, what are you doing with Belinda?" Sarah asked. Ethan looked like he didn't know what to say, so I spoke instead. "We're dating now," I said smugly. "I can't believe it," Sarah cried. "Ethan, what happened to us? We were perfect for each other." Then she turned to me. "What did you do to get him from me? I know you must have meddled somehow. I bet you made up some lie about me, didn't you?" "Come on, Ethan," I said, pulling him with me. "She's crazy. Let's not waste any more of our time on her." At first, things went really well with Ethan. I felt really happy he was my boyfriend. But looking back, I think that was mainly because I was just glad that I got one over on Sarah. Soon, the novelty of dating him began to wear off. He wasn't really my type, to be honest. Actually, he was quite boring. All he ever wanted to do was sit at home playing computer games, week in, week out. I was the complete opposite of him. I hated staying at home, and I hated playing computer games. I wanted him to take me to the movies or to a nice restaurant. But whenever I suggested we do something, he always had some reason for not being able to go. Finally, after another boring evening sitting in his house, I decided I was going to end it with him. "I'm sorry, Ethan. It's just not working out." Ethan was fine about it. "Let's just agree to be friends," he said. "Of course," I said. "Oh, but make sure you don't tell anyone that I changed your grades, or I will change them back again. But this time, I will make them worse than before. I won't tell anyone, I promise." The next time I saw a boy I liked, I didn't bother wasting my time flirting with him. I just got straight to the point. I offered to change his grades if he dated me, but I soon got bored with him and moved on to the next boy. I dated boy after boy. None of them lasted very long, though. It was too easy to just get another boy when I got bored. I could get any boy I wanted. One thing did surprise me, though. Ethan ended up getting back with Sarah. When I first found out they were dating, I started panicking. What if he tells Sarah what I've done for him? I thought. I decided I would have to speak to him. The first chance I got, I went up to him and whispered in his ears, "Don't forget your promise, or you're going to get a fail in every subject." "Don't worry, I haven't told anyone," he said. "Your secret is safe with me." After our conversation, I stopped worrying about Ethan, which is why it came as a big shock when I bumped into Sarah at school the next day. "I know what you did," she said. "I know that you've been changing all the boys' grades so that they will date you." My heart sank. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "I can't believe Ethan told you," I said. "He promised me he wouldn't say anything." "What?" Sarah said. "No, it wasn't Ethan that told me." "Well, if it wasn't him, who was it then?" "It was Mrs. Walker." "The school secretary?" "Yup." "Why would she tell you?" "Because she's my auntie." I listened in shock as Sarah told me that her auntie had noticed that some of the boys' grades were a lot higher than she remembered them getting. She had gone to the principal and told him what she had found. The principal searched the computer history to see who had accessed the system. He then traced the IP address and found out that it had come from a computer located at my home address. "Once I knew you had changed the grades, I put 2 and 2 together and realized how you had got Ethan and all the other boys to date you," she said. I couldn't believe that I had been caught. "Oh my God, the principal is going to tell my parents and I'll probably get expelled," I thought. "They're going to be so angry with me." I knew there was nothing else for it. I was going to have to find a way to blackmail the principal, so he didn't tell my parents what I had done. When I got home, I went straight to my room and switched on my computer. I began to investigate the principal. I was hoping I might find an embarrassing photo or something like that. The last thing I imagined I would find was that he was actually a wanted criminal. It was all there in black and white. He had escaped from prison and was on the run. The FBI had been looking for him for almost 5 years. I had no idea how he had managed to evade them for so long, but this was just what I needed. When the bell rang at the end of school the next day, I waited around until everyone else had left the school building. I went straight to the principal's office and knocked on the door loudly. "Come in," said the principal. I walked into his office and sat down at his desk. He looked a bit shocked to see me. He probably thought that I was there to ask for forgiveness. But he was wrong. "I know. You're an escaped prisoner," I told him. His face turned white. "You better not tell anyone what I've done, or I will call the FBI and tell them where you are," I said. "Okay, you win," he said. "I won't tell anyone." I felt like a weight had been lifted off my shoulders. Finally, I could relax again. Everything was going to be okay. I was just about to leave his office when suddenly the door burst open and the room was filled with FBI agents. "Put your hands in the air," one officer shouted. The principal did as they said. They put handcuffs on him and let him out of the school building. As he went out, he turned to me and said, "This is all your fault, Belinda. You're going to regret what you've done to me." I was so confused. I hadn't told the FBI yet. Why were they here? I looked at Mrs. Walker standing in the doorway. "What just happened?" I asked her. "I overheard you blackmailing the principal," she said. "I called the FBI and told them everything." "What? Why would you do that? My life is going to be ruined now because of you," I screamed at her. We found out at school that the principal had been taken back to prison. Mrs. Walker ended up calling my parents and telling them everything that I had done. "We're so disappointed in you, Belinda," said my dad when he came to pick me up. "You're grounded for a month." When I went back to school, no one would speak to me. Sarah had told everyone that I had been changing grades and that I had tried to blackmail the school principal. It was a pretty miserable time for me. It was towards the end of term, and I was walking home from school all alone. Nobody wanted to walk with me anymore. Suddenly, I felt a strange sensation. I was sure someone was following me. I turned around, but I couldn't see anyone at all. I carried on walking and was almost home when I felt someone grab me from behind. I couldn't see who it was. They put their hands over my mouth and blindfolded me. The next thing I knew, I was being pushed into a car. I tried to scream, but the hand over my mouth just stifled the sound. We drove for about 10 minutes and then the car stopped. Someone took me out of the car and led me into a building. Someone took off the blindfold. The glare from the light blinded me for a few seconds, but eventually everything came into focus. 2 men were standing in front of me. "What do you want with me?" I cried. "Please, don't hurt me." "Do you remember what you did to your school principal?" one of the men asked. I felt the fear rising up inside me. I remember the principal's words as the police were taking him away. "I'm sorry," I said. "I wasn't going to tell the FBI. It was all a mistake." "Well, it's a mistake that's going to cost you a lot," the other man said. "Now you just sit here and don't make a sound. We will be back in an hour." They left the room and I heard the sound of the key in the door. I had no idea what they were going to do with me, but I knew that I had to try to find a way out of there. Luckily, they hadn't tied me up. I looked around the room, but the only way out was through the locked door. It was no good. There was nothing I could do. I had no choice but to just sit there and wait for them to come back. It wasn't long before I heard the sound of the key turning in the door. I took a deep breath. This was my only chance. When the door opened, I was going to try and make an escape. I stood up, but when the door opened, it wasn't the two men standing there. It was Ethan. "Ethan, what are you doing here?" I asked. "I've come to save you," he said. "Quick, follow me." I didn't wait around a second longer. I ran out the door and followed Ethan outside. We ran down the street as fast as we could. We had to get away before the two men came back. Eventually, we were out of breath and had to stop running. Then we hid in a shop doorway. "How did you know where to find me?" I asked Ethan. "I was walking behind you on the way home from school, and I saw the men bundling you into the car," he said. "So I followed them and waited outside the building. When I saw them leave, I went inside the building. I couldn't believe they had left the key in the door." "You've saved my life, Ethan," I said. "What can I do to repay you?" "There is one thing I would like." "Anything, anything." "I want you and Sarah to put everything behind you. I want you two to become friends." The thought of being friends with my arch enemy was disgusting to me. But I really didn't have a choice, did I? So now Sarah and I are doing our best to become friends. For Ethan's sake.